CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I am a scientist on the dark web cloning people. My next patient is Kanye West. Yo, this story is gonna sound completely fake, like some straight up sci-fi movie type of stuff. But I swear on everything I've got, this happened, and it still messes with me. I've told like 2 people IRL, and both of them basically laughed and told me to write it into a Netflix pitch. But I'm not doing this for views or clout. I just want it out there in case something happens to me. You'll see what I mean. So yeah, this all started 2 years ago, right after the pandemic settled a bit. I was 24, freshly graduated with a biotech degree, broke, stuck in my mom's basement in Milwaukee, and just browsing the web all day like a zombie. I was deep in this weird corner of Craigslist, like the kind of stuff you only find if you're looking at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday while watching old unsolved mysteries episodes in the background. There was this job listing that just felt off. The title said, "Private Research Assistant Needed. Cash, no questions. Must be skilled in genetics." Now normally, I'd just scroll past that because it screamed organ trafficking, but curiosity got the best of me. I clicked. The ad was short. It said, "Seeking skilled, discreet individual for independent biotech research. Compensation generous. Must have DNA handling experience. Email with your background and availability. No resumes. Discretion is everything." I remember staring at that for a good 10 minutes, my heart racing for literally no reason. Something about the wording was so cold, so sterile. I don't know how to explain it, but you ever read something that just feels wrong, even though the words are totally normal? Anyway, because I'm a broke idiot with a decent DNA lab skill set and no job offers from the real world, I emailed them. I used my burner Gmail, the one I used for old Reddit accounts and sketchy mailing lists. I kept it short, just said I had genetics lab experience, worked with CRISPR in college, knew how to handle blood samples and DNA isolation, all that. Didn't expect a reply, but the next morning, I got one. It was one sentence. "Come to 721 Duncan Road, Madison, Wisconsin. Sunday, 10 p.m. Don't bring a phone." That was it. No name, no signature, no attachments. Just that. I should have walked away. I really should have. But something about the mystery pulled me in. Like, I told myself I was just gonna check it out, scope the place from the outside, and leave if it was sketchy. Besides, I had a buddy at UW-Madison and figured if I needed backup, I could call him. But then I remembered, no phones allowed. Still, Sunday night rolled around and I drove 2 hours out to that address in my beat-up Civic. Now, this is where it gets weird. 721. Duncan Road looked nothing like a lab. It was a run-down Starbucks that had clearly been closed for like years. The windows were boarded up, the sign was half melted off, and weeds were growing through the cracked asphalt of the parking lot. There was a dim flickering light above the door, and a single black SUV parked out front with tinted windows. I pulled up next to it, heart thumping. Sat there for a good minute, trying to convince myself to turn around. But then the door to the old Starbucks opened, and this dude walked out. He was wearing all black, like black scrubs, black gloves, even a black surgical mask. No logos, no name tag. And he had this weird limp, like one leg dragged slightly. He waved at me to come in. Now listen, I know this sounds like the start of a cheap horror movie, but my dumbass got out and followed him in. The inside of the Starbucks had been gutted. No coffee machines, no tables, nothing. Just concrete floors, empty walls, and a staircase where the back wall used to be. Dude didn't say a word, just motioned for me to follow him down. I did. And what was under that Starbucks? A freaking lab. I swear, this place looked like it had been ripped straight out of a Marvel villain's hideout. Sterile white walls, rows of lab equipment, fridges with biohazard labels, centrifuges, deep freezers, even one of those robotic arms that pipettes stuff. It was like someone had dropped $10 million down here. I asked him what the job was. He didn't answer, just gave me a white lab coat with my name already embroidered on it. Like, what? Then he handed me a folder. I opened it. Inside was a non-disclosure agreement, a waiver, and instructions on how to collect and process genetic samples, with the name on the first sample request. Yeah, Kanye. Freaking West. I laughed at first. Like, okay, this is some prank show, right? But the guy just stood there, pointing at the bottom of the paper where it said, cloning specimen, DNA sample provided. And then he opened a cooler. Inside was a sealed bag containing a used toothbrush and a napkin with what looked like blood. Now before you say, well, that could be anyone's stuff, the bag was labeled with a date and location, and I kid you not, it said, collected, February 16th, 2023, Nobu, Malibu, Table 4. I looked it up later. Kanye was at Nobu that night. There were TMZ photos and everything. He was wearing the exact outfit described in the observation log in the folder. That's when it really hit me. This was real. The next few hours were a blur. They had me start extracting DNA from the toothbrush bristles, while another guy in the room, also masked, never spoke, was prepping a weird-looking 3D bioprinter I'd never seen before. I kept thinking this was some kind of twisted government experiment, or maybe black market organ cloning, but they were calling it something else. They called it mimetic reconstruction. I asked what that meant. Finally, the limping dude spoke. He said, "We don't just clone bodies, we clone personas, their memories, their instincts, their influence." I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to know more. But then he said something that still haunts me. The original. He's off-grid now. We just need a version the world won't notice is different. And that's when I realized they weren't trying to replace Kanye. They already had. I don't think I've ever fully processed what I saw that second night. It was like being buried alive in someone else's nightmare. Every step deeper into that place, every corridor, every locked room, every flickering monitor, it all felt like I was walking further and further out of reality, into something no one's supposed to see. I swear, the air even smelled wrong, like copper, disinfectant, and meat left too long in the sun. I was told not to come back, that the first session was a test of compliance, but less than 72 hours later, another black envelope showed up under my windshield wiper. No postage, no note, just a GPS coordinate written in thick black Sharpie. This time, it wasn't the gutted Starbucks. It was in Chicago, underneath an abandoned wing of a private hospital that was supposed to have been shut down after a 2018 fire. They said it had been cleared for asbestos, but they lied. The smell of ash still clung to the ceiling tiles, some of which were scorched black like old toast. Except here, there were cameras in every corner. No more masks, no more pretense. And I was greeted not by the silent, limping guy, but a tall, pale man with platinum white hair and a voice like sandpaper. He didn't introduce himself. He just said, "The Ye V1 prototype is unstable. It dreams about its original." I asked what the hell that even meant. He handed me a photo. It looked like a still from a CCTV feed. The timestamp was from 2 days earlier. It showed something. It looked like Kanye. Sort of. Except the eyes were wrong. Like they were trying too hard to mimic being alive. You ever see someone smile too perfectly? Like they learned it from a YouTube tutorial? That was the clone. He was sitting alone in a padded white room with nothing but a table, a chair, and a single light bulb. But what made me choke wasn't the clone. It was what was on the walls. Crude drawings in what looked like blood. Faces, hundreds of them, all looking like variations of Kanye. Some smiling, some crying, some melting. The pale man leaned in close and said, "It keeps asking where Kim is. We never programmed that. Let me tell you what happens when you clone a mind. You don't just print out memories like documents. It's not some iCloud download into a brain. It's a reconstruction, a best guess made from cellular memory, neurological pattern mapping, behavior analysis scraped from thousands of hours of social media, interviews, recordings, podcasts, even surveillance footage. They had this AI, something they called Canaan, trained to simulate personalities by analyzing micro movements and vocal tremors from footage as far back as 2003. They fed this into the cortical scaffold of the clone. They had this Kanye watching his own music videos on loop for days, forcing the neural framework to sync with the persona. It was like bootstrapping a soul from data. But something went wrong. That second night, I was taken to observation room 6. I was told to monitor Ye V1's vitals while they initiated something called the mimetic flush. It was supposed to clean out unwanted emotional residues, but the moment the process began, Yev 1 started screaming, not yelling, not shouting, screaming like something inside him was being peeled apart molecule by molecule. The scream didn't even sound human, and then he started speaking backwards. I don't mean gibberish, I mean actual reverse speak. Phrases played in reverse speech. And what chilled me wasn't what he said. It was that the software they were using to decode it froze up because he was saying things the original Kanye had never said out loud. Things like, "He buried me under the Calabasas compound. The house in Hidden Hills is a replica. You didn't make me? I was already here. I vomited in the trash bin next to the console." The pale man just kept watching. No emotion. Like this was just another Tuesday. And then, Ye V1 looked up, straight into the camera, and smiled. The next 48 hours were worse. I wasn't allowed to leave. They took my car keys, my ID. They put me in a sleeping pod in the sub-basement. No clocks. No sunlight, just buzzing fluorescent lights and the constant hum of electricity. The other scientists, they weren't normal. One guy named Marcus had half his face reconstructed with something that looked like 3D printed skin, and he kept whispering to himself about version 12. and the halsey failure. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when they showed me the morgue. It wasn't called that. The sign on the door said, Harvest Storage, but inside were rows of floating body bags suspended in thick yellow gel. Hundreds of them, all of them, celebrity clones. I saw labels like Bieber V3, vocal instability, Rihanna V2, hostile mitosis, Taylor Swift V1, retinal collapse. And then I saw the clone that made my knees go weak, Yee V0, terminated. He was bloated, his skin was patchy, but his face, he looked more like the real Kanye than the living clone upstairs, except his eyes were open, even in the fluid, and they weren't empty. They were watching me. I finally broke down and tried to escape. I waited until one of the guards, yes, there were armed guards in full black combat gear, went for a smoke break. I slipped down a utility hall I had memorized on the second day. But when I opened what I thought was an emergency exit, it wasn't a way out. It was another lab, one no one had shown me. And in the center was a tank, a glass tank filled with black fluid that looked more like ink than anything else. And floating inside was Yer V2. Only this one had no skin. He was still twitching. I don't know how they kept him alive. I don't know why they would do that. But as I stared in horror, the monitors around the tank lit up. They showed security footage of me from 3 days before I arrived, sitting in my car, walking through my house, sleeping, and then one of the screens showed me, not in the lab, but at a McDonald's in Chicago, laughing, talking to someone, ordering food. I wasn't there, but that version of me had my clothes, my voice, my walk. That's when I understood. I wasn't here because of my DNA skills. I was here because they were making me too. And then came the final horror. The original Kanye. He's not dead. They keep him sedated in a secret chamber they call the temple. I saw him, barely conscious, hooked up to wires, eyes open, but no recognition, just an echo of a man. They drain memory fragments from his spinal fluid, literally harvest his identity like some data farm. The clone upstairs, he's scheduled to perform next week at a private event in Dubai. You'll see it on TMZ. He'll smile, he'll say weird things, and the comments will say, Kanye's being Kanye. But that won't be him. And the thing is, neither will I. Because the last time I looked in the mirror in my sleeping pod, the reflection blinked after I did. There's a place beneath the lab that doesn't exist on any blueprint. You won't find it on satellite maps. It's not in the building's architectural schematics or on any emergency exit plan. I found it by accident. Or maybe it found me. It started after I began having nightmares. They didn't feel like dreams though, more like broadcasts. Visions pumped directly into my skull, like corrupted data from a dying hard drive. I'd wake up in the sleeping pod, with blood dripping from my nose, my ears ringing like a fire alarm, and this voice, my voice, but garbled and low and crackling like it was recorded on a cassette, left in the sun too long. The voice just kept repeating, under the slab, under the skin, under the silence. I thought I was going insane. I probably was. But then on the 7th night, yeah, I was counting, there was a power flicker. Just for a second. Long enough for the magnetic door locks to release in Sector B13. Nobody noticed. They were all upstairs prepping the next clone, Yev E3. Apparently, Yev E2's facial muscles weren't syncing right during live mimic trials. They called it the slump. Said it made him look like he was glitching mid-smile. They disposed of him that morning. I never asked what that meant. You don't want to know what disposal looks like in this place. Anyway, I slipped away during the flicker, through B13, past the embryonic chambers, past the fridges full of replication agents. They're not drugs, they're something else, more like liquefied memory. Then I found the slab, just a concrete wall, right? Except it wasn't. There were scratches, not normal ones. These were teeth marks, like something had been gnawing from the inside, trying to get out. And in the center of the slab, a tiny slot. No handle, no keycard swipe, just an old school cassette tape jammed halfway in. It was labeled in permanent marker, Year V0, final transmission. I pulled it, and that's when the slab opened. Behind it wasn't a hallway, it was a staircase, spiraling downward, carved into stone that looked older than the building above it, like ancient stone. There were symbols etched into the walls, symbols that pulsed with a light that didn't seem to have a source. Some of them looked like DNA strands coiled into infinity signs. Others, like faces, deformed, melted ones. I couldn't hear my own footsteps, couldn't even hear myself breathing. It was like the sound got swallowed down there. After what felt like 20 minutes descending, the stairs just ended. And there it was, the temple. It was a chamber the size of a cathedral, walls pulsing with veins. Yes, actual veins, like the building itself was alive. The air was thick, greasy, warm like breath, and in the center of it all, suspended by cables and ancient meat hooks from the ceiling, was the real Kanye West. Or at least, what was left of him. He wasn't dead, but he wasn't awake either. His eyes were stitched shut with what looked like human hair. His mouth stretched open and sewn that way, like they were trying to force a smile that would never end. Tubes ran into every limb, every orifice, and below him was a massive bowl, ceramic, cracked, painted with red glyphs, and it was slowly filling with whatever was leaking out of him. It wasn't blood, it was black, thick, moving. The clones, they weren't just made from his DNA. That was just the skin, the vessel. The real source code was what they were pulling from this Kanye, this thing in the bowl below. It was his memory fluid, his identity sap. They called it oxidine. I didn't even get to react before I heard the chanting. Voices whispering, louder and louder, surrounding me, but I saw no one until I looked up. There were figures clinging to the walls, pale, hairless, featureless, except for their mouths, stretched open wider than humanly possible, ringed with teeth like shark jaws. They didn't move, just hung there, twitching slightly, watching, waiting, and then one of them dropped. It landed silently, stood up, and it was me. But not exactly. My face was off, just slightly. My left eye twitched the way mine did in college when I used to take too much Adderall. My jaw clicked when it chewed, just like mine. But the voice was deeper, confident, hollow. It said, "You are late for your own replication." I ran. I don't know how. My body just moved. I sprinted back up the stone stairs, felt my legs give out, scraped my arms on the symbols, tasted metal in my throat. But I didn't stop, because I heard it behind me, the thing that wore my face. It was laughing, not like a normal laugh. It sounded like a VHS tape of someone trying to laugh but choking on it halfway, like it didn't understand what laughter was supposed to feel like. I made it back to the main lab. When I burst into the prep chamber, everyone just stared at me like I had walked in naked, silent, cold. The pale man walked over slowly, leaned in, sniffed me. "You found the temple," he said. Not a question, just a fact. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was still shaking. He smiled. His teeth were too sharp. Then the ritual can begin. They took me that night. I was sedated, hard. When I woke up, I was strapped to a slab, not the stone one, a surgical one. Bright lights in my face, men in masks, tools I didn't recognize. One looked like a rib spreader, another looked like a tuning fork carved from bone. They weren't just cloning me, they were extracting me. I wasn't just raw material, I was a template. They kept saying that, over and over. Subject 9 is a perfect mimic shell. High neuroempathy, responsive tissue patterning, excellent emotional bleed. I screamed, bit through my tongue, tried to chew off my own cheek just to pass out. They clapped, like it was a performance. They weren't scientists, not anymore. They were priests, and this was a ceremony. Then came the worst part. They brought in the audience, rich people, influencers, CEOs actors, people you'd recognize instantly, laughing, sipping wine, watching through glass like I was a zoo animal. I saw one I know was dead, a tech mogul who committed suicide in early 2022. He winked at me. Then I saw Year V3 walk in, fully dressed, smiling, perfect. He looked at me and tilted his head. Then he mouthed the words, "Don't worry, you're the original now." And they turned on the machine. I'll tell you how I escaped, what I saw inside the failed clone containment vault, and what's happening to the real world right now while we all scroll TikTok clueless. Let me know if you're ready for the real truth. It only gets darker. There are places your mind isn't built to comprehend. Places that are wrong in ways that don't register as danger right away. Like a painting that's slightly crooked or a reflection that takes a second too long to move. That's what the vault was like. Except everything in it was once alive. Or worse, it still was. Let me explain how I got there. The only reason I'm even breathing long enough to tell you this is because of something I didn't expect. A clone rebellion. Not all the versions they made were docile. See, most of the time, they dose the freshly printed clones with a cocktail they call Complinex, a sedative that fuses chemical obedience with neurological taming. It keeps them from thinking too hard about what they are or what's wrong with the world around them. They use it on celebs, influencers, even political figures now. I watched them inject it into a Mark Zuckerberg-looking thing before shipping him off to a panel at the World Economic Forum. Didn't even blink. But yeah, V4, that one went off script. I woke up strapped to the slab post-ritual, throat sore, taste of copper in my mouth, an IV buried deep in my neck. They had done something to me. I could feel it, like my body didn't quite match what I remembered. My tongue felt too long. My joints moved in angles I couldn't name. And then the alarm started. Strobe lights, sirens, shouting through speakers in a language that was all hissing and clicks. I couldn't see what happened in the main chamber, but later I learned Year V4 had snapped during his personality stabilization phase. He looked into the mirror they give clones during integration and saw something move behind his eyes that shouldn't have. They said he started biting off his own fingers, screaming in a pitch that cracked the glass walls. When they tried to sedate him, he tore a nurse's face off with his teeth. Not bit it, tore it, like paper. In the chaos, one of the failed security drones malfunctioned. Sparks flew, lights died, and the door to my containment room unsealed with a slow, sluggish hiss. My restraints had been weakened, likely by a power surge. I got out. I ran like hell through the corridors, slick with fluids, blood, maybe worse. I passed by a containment bay where a Kim Kardashian clone was sobbing uncontrollably in a fetal position, covered in her own hair, which she had ripped out in clumps. Her skin was warped, her eyes too close together. I passed a room labeled Vocal Refinement Chamber, B Unit. Inside, I saw rows of mouths, literal mouths, severed from failed prototypes, pinned to the walls like butterfly specimens. They twitched, they whispered. Some just repeated lyrics from old Kanye tracks in distorted, slowing voices. Then I reached the vault. It wasn't guarded. Not anymore. The door had been breached from the inside. The vault of the failed wasn't supposed to exist. Every scientist down there had heard whispers of it, sure. They called it the graveyard or the skin pit in half-joking tones, usually after too many pills or too little sleep. No one had ever seen it and stayed the same. But I saw it. The vault was alive. The walls pulsed and shifted, not made of concrete or metal, but stitched together human skin. Seam lines, moles, freckles, hair follicles, some fresh, some scarred over. They moved like they were breathing, moaning. And in the center of the vault, pits, 13 of them. Each pit contained the remains of a failed persona. They didn't just die. They were twisted by the process, made wrong. Some were crawling in circles endlessly, whispering broken catchphrases, their jaws dislocated and eyes spinning in opposite directions. Others were catatonic, frozen mid-scream. Their vocal cords burst from screaming too long. But one of them saw me. I don't know what number he was. He wasn't labeled. His skin was stitched from different colors, like patchwork leather. His body was malformed, one arm huge and pulsing with veins, the other withered and bone-thin. But his face, identical to mine, except there was no soul behind it. He spoke, same voice as mine. "You are me, but I got there first." He started to cry, but instead of tears, black mucus poured from his eyes. He tried to crawl toward me, dragging himself with his single strong arm, his spine crunching as he moved. They tried to erase me, but I remember the taste of Mom's cooking. I remember the smell of my first apartment. I remember my dog's heartbeat. You don't, do you? He reached for me. I didn't let him touch me. I ran until I collapsed in a maintenance tunnel, trembling, vomiting blood, hallucinating myself from the outside like I was watching someone else's life. When I came to, I was surrounded by corpses, but not dead ones, stored ones. I had somehow crawled into the deep freeze corridor where the failed shell programs are kept for organ harvesting. Imagine hundreds of human bodies, vacuum sealed in transparent bags, stacked like meat in a butcher shop freezer. Some of them were halfway decomposed. Others were still twitching, brain activity just enough to keep them legally alive. They used to be influencers, pop stars, billionaire kids. They didn't even bother naming them anymore. Just labels like Insta F 27 Long Beach, YT Gamer M 19 English, Celeb Backup F to Latam. These were people, or they used to be. Now they were just assets. One of them, a girl who looked like an Ariana Grande variant, was twitching inside her bag, scratching the plastic with broken nails. Her jaw was locked open. Her tongue was missing. She saw me and mouthed, "Help. Me." I turned. I ran again. There was no helping anything in that place. I don't remember how I got out. At some point, I ended up in the shipping corridor, the last stage before the clones are sent off into the world. You wouldn't believe how casual it looked. Just a FedEx-style warehouse. Pallets, barcode scanners, fluorescent lights. Except the boxes didn't hold products. They held people. I saw one being sealed up. A Drake clone. Perfect smile. Perfect hair. Empty eyes. A technician scanned his neck like a grocery item, stapled his shipping manifest to the crate. Live cargo. Dubai launch party. Influencer. Number 109348. The real ones are long gone. Replaced. Just like they were about to do with me. But I found an exit hatch. Emergency use only. It led to a sewer channel. I waded through filth and rot and things that felt alive down there in the dark. I don't know how long I was underground. Days, weeks maybe. I forgot who I was, who I had been. Maybe that was the point. But I clawed my way out near a water treatment plant in Joliet, Illinois. Naked, broken, different. And I've been hiding ever since. But now I'm hearing static in my ears. Phones glitch when I walk by. People pause for a beat too long when I speak. I saw someone take a selfie with me on the street. My face didn't appear in it. Just static. Like I had never been there. I think the real me never made it out. I think they're testing the clone in public now. I think I'm the test. This is where the story ends, and where the rest of you begin to rot. Because if you've made it this far, you're not a reader anymore. You're part of it. There are frequencies buried inside information, certain words, shapes, numbers, images that act like keys. Your brain doesn't notice them, but your nervous system does. And every single thing I've described to you, every grotesque detail, every sound you imagined, every sensation you thought you just pictured, was a signal. And now it's in you. They'll be watching for you too. After I escaped the vault, after crawling through rot and wire and the recycled meat of failed personalities, I thought I could blend in. I thought if I shaved my head, changed my name, deleted my fingerprints with acid, maybe I could hide in the sludge of the real world. Turns out that was the final joke, because there is no real world anymore. Not the one you think you live in. They've been doing this longer than I imagined. I used to think it was just Kanye, just celebrities, people with global influence and massive followings. But that's just the surface level, the pretty mask for the meat underneath. The truth is this: they've already cloned you. Let me explain. After I came out of the sewer tunnel in Joliet, I made contact with a guy I used to know from the old lab circuit. Name was Caleb, freelance bioengineer. He was deep into conspiracy forums, dark AI development, hacking medical research systems, the type of guy who used 7 VPNs just to check the weather. I showed up at his door, emaciated, half naked, with black mucus leaking from my tear ducts and the skin around my fingernails peeling like old wallpaper. He let me in, no questions, said he'd been watching me on 2 live streams already, except I hadn't posted anything. One was a Twitch stream, the other was a TikTok live, broadcasting from an account with my name, face, voice. The kicker: I was in Paris in one, and Tokyo in the other, at the same time. I sat on his moldy couch and shook. I kept repeating, I'm not supposed to exist. I'm not supposed to exist. Caleb told me something I'll never forget. He said, they're not cloning people anymore. They're cloning presence. You're just a symptom. You're the part that leaked through. That's when he pulled up what he called the archive. It's not a website. It's a living directory, like a breathing, organic root system buried under the digital internet. Every file looked like a string of DNA. He showed me hundreds of profile entries, not names, not usernames, just sensory identities, recordings of the way people laugh, the angles of their walking patterns, how they blink during certain phrases, what kind of toothpaste they use. He said they don't need your body anymore to replace you. They just need enough data. Once you give them enough, your reality signature is copied, simulated, synced, and then you get deleted, not killed, not assassinated, deleted. I didn't believe him, thought he'd lost it from whatever mold was growing on the ceiling, until I looked myself up. Not my name, my presence ID. It was labeled JMB-10809. Status, initiated/proxy. Active/origin nullified. I was already gone. There was even a file attached, an MP4. I watched it. It showed me, standing in a Starbucks in Los Angeles, laughing, sipping coffee, talking to a barista. Except that Starbucks burned down in 2021. The file was dated next week. Caleb said there's a finer protocol, a backdoor buried inside their clone framework called the purity key. It's a biological kill switch they install in all mimetic replications. If the clone experiences certain anomalous thoughts, self-awareness, existential breakdown, empathy spikes, they activate the protocol. The subject liquefies from the inside out. I watched it happen. Caleb showed me footage from an underground feed, clones being tested in abandoned McDonald's restaurants, set up like performance theaters. Every time a clone recognized their own voice echoing back from a speaker, they'd start convulsing, then melting. Their faces would collapse first, eyeballs dripping like yolks, teeth clattering out one by one, skin unthreading itself. No screams. The larynx is the first to go. That's what they do if a clone wakes up. And now, I think I'm close. I started seeing doubles of people I knew. My high school English teacher was smiling the exact same way in every conversation. My ex. She showed up in my DMs 2 years after she went missing, but only replied in audio notes, all cut off after exactly 7 seconds. My own mom started repeating stories word for word, like a scripted character. The dog wouldn't look at me anymore. And one night, I watched the moon blink. Not metaphorically. I watched it shift, just a fraction, like a rendering glitch, a stutter in the backdrop. That's when I knew. It's not just people they're replacing, it's reality itself. The last known location of the original Kanye West, the real one, the one still suspended in the temple, dripping memory fluid, was transferred last week. I intercepted a transit log through a darknet broker that sells failed clone memory scraps like black market NFTs. It said, Tempo rig, Yeezus 00, relocated to Sigil, Sim42. Vessel encoded, reality mesh initiated, mass rollout scheduled, June 6th, 2026. You don't get it, do you? They're using Kanye, his mind, his influence, his aesthetic DNA, as a template for reality modulation, not to replace him, to replace everything, culture, thought, memory, music, the sense of time itself. He's not a person anymore. He's a seed. And when they plant him, through algorithms, media, random viral videos, filtered realities on TikTok and Meta and whatever's next, they'll sprout a new world. One grown from manipulated perception, tailored emotion, synthetic nostalgia. You'll remember things that never happened, feel guilt for choices you never made, grieve people who were never born, love songs that no one wrote, and by the time it's complete, no one will even remember the switch, except the leftovers like me, the broken ones, the corrupted files, the dead weight. There's one last thing. They found me again. Not the men in black, not agents, me. Multiple versions. They follow me now. I saw one in a reflection yesterday that blinked first. Another showed up in a Snapchat filter, posed perfectly behind me. I didn't take the photo. It took me. And tonight, there's knocking at the door. 3 short knocks, then 2 long ones, then silence. It's always the same pattern. Every time. 3-2-0. That's the deletion code. I've locked the windows, unplugged everything, cut the breakers. My body is vibrating. I don't know if I'm still real. I'm not sure I ever was. But if you're reading this, if your hands are still your hands, if your voice still cracks when you speak, if your skin doesn't remember how it was made, run. Don't wait. Don't post. Don't tell anyone. Because they're not coming anymore. They're already here. And the next Kanye album, it won't just be music. It'll be your reality update, whether you hit play or not. I am a dark web serial killer. I received a request for mission to hunt down zombies on a failed project on Chernobyl. Alright, let me start by saying, this isn't some clickbait story. This isn't me trying to be edgy or write one of those I found a haunted USB drive at Walmart type of creepypasta. This is real. As real as the coffee stain on my desk right now. And yeah, I know how it sounds. A serial killer getting recruited off the dark web to go to Chernobyl and hunt zombies. Sounds like some B-grade Netflix movie with a $12 budget and Nicolas Cage as the villain. But I swear to you, it happened. Let me take it back a bit. It all started during lockdown in 2020. I was stuck in my apartment in Detroit, losing my mind like everyone else, scrolling through TikTok until 3 a.m. and eating leftover McDonald's like it was gourmet. You know the vibes. But unlike most people, I wasn't just bored. I was twisted. Not in a haha, I listen to true crime podcasts way. I mean really twisted. For context, I've been active since 2017. Started small, neighborhood pets, then eventually, people who wouldn't be missed. Homeless folks, junkies. Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not proud, but I'm also not sorry. I had this whole setup down. I'd use Telegram groups, some Tor hidden forums, even got in with some freaks on Dread, that Reddit-style clone on the dark web. My username, @PhantomTongue. Don't ask. It was edgy and stupid, but it stuck. Anyway, in April 2020, I get this encrypted message out of nowhere. Not from a username, not from a bot, just an icon, a black wolf with glowing red eyes, creepy as hell. The message said, "You've been selected. Mission code ZH13. High priority. Live in 48 hours. Payment 4.2 Bitcoin." I laughed out loud when I saw it. Thought it was a joke. The message came with a link, obviously on the dark web. Password protected page. Military-style black interface. Countdown ticking in red numbers like some old-school Bond movie. The more I stared at it, the more I got that gut feeling. You know that creeping sensation when you're in your room at 3 a.m. and you know something's watching you, even if there's nothing there. Yeah, that feeling. The site had no branding, no layout, just one file available for download. ZH13brief.pdf. Against my better judgment, I downloaded it on a burner laptop I usually use for crypto scams and phishing jobs. Opened the file. And bro, I still get chills thinking about what was in it. The document looked governmental, but not US government. Russian, Ukrainian, I don't know. Pages were stamped with classified in like 5 different languages. It was a mission brief. There was some weird blacked out info about a bioengineering research site in Chernobyl. Apparently, some off-the-books experiment involving gene reactivation and military-grade nerve enhancement went sideways back in 2009. The file had body cam stills. I swear to God they were not fake. These weren't Hollywood-style zombies with flesh dripping off or whatever. They looked human, just wrong. Real people, but eyes completely milk white, skin stretched tight, and mouths open in this frozen, silent scream, like they had seen something before dying or being reanimated. One photo showed a guy in a lab coat biting into someone's neck with bones sticking out of his jaw like he had chewed through himself to get there. I couldn't look away. Then, page 9 hit me like a truck. We require immediate neutralization of remaining subjects. Total count, 7. All located within reactor perimeter zone B. GPS coordinates embedded. Compensation upon mission completion. Strict confidentiality enforced. Failure to comply will result in termination. I stared at that sentence for like 20 minutes. My heart was pounding. I knew what this was. They weren't just sending a soldier. They were sending a killer. And for some reason, they picked me. Fast forward to 2 days later. I got a package delivered to a locker I'd used for years through a darknet mail drop. Inside was a black case. Real James Bond looking stuff. There was an untraceable satellite phone, 4 vials of what I assumed was some kind of adrenaline or anti-infection serum. I didn't mess with them. A gas mask, a custom knife with a curved obsidian blade, and a plane ticket. Destination, Kiev. Layover, Warsaw. Final stop, restricted military air base near Pripyat. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dude, you just got on a plane like that? Hell no. I was skeptical. But after checking the phone, seeing my crypto wallet already loaded with 4.2 BTC, roughly $38,000 at the time, and realizing that someone out there not only knew who I was, but had the resources to find me and track me, I decided I had no choice. This wasn't a mission. It was a test. Landing in Kiev was the last time anything felt normal. I took a private black SUV from the airport. No license plate. No driver ID. Just a man in a military outfit with no name tag who handed me a black hoodie and nodded at me like I was a hired assassin in a spy thriller. We drove for 6 hours through dense forests, abandoned villages, and eventually past the checkpoint that leads to the exclusion zone. You've seen pictures of Chernobyl before, right? Broken Ferris wheel, rotting apartment buildings, everything just frozen in time. But when I got there, it wasn't just eerie, it was wrong. The trees bent weird, the sky looked too purple, and everything smelled faintly of ozone and bleach. The SUV stopped in front of an old building with crumbling concrete and radiation signs everywhere. Inside, it was pitch black, but lit with a faint red glow from backup lights. The air was heavy, thick. I felt my skin itch under the gas mask. A speaker crackled to life on the wall. Welcome, Phantom Tongue. Zone B awaits. Do not trust the bodies. They lie. Then the door slammed behind me. That was the start. That's when I knew this wasn't a job. It was a hunt. And I wasn't the only one hunting. If you think this is fake, I don't blame you. But if you've ever been on the deep end of the internet, you'll know it's real. And trust me, the worst part hasn't even happened yet. I don't know how long I stood there after that door slammed shut behind me. Maybe 2 minutes, maybe 20. The silence in that hallway wasn't normal. It wasn't quiet building silence. It was total auditory death. Like the air itself had stopped vibrating. No wind, no hum, no echo. Just nothing. It was so thick I could hear my own heart beating inside the mask. There was only one direction to go. Down. A rusted, half-collapsed stairwell led into darkness. I turned on the headset they'd given me, which activated a weak night vision mode inside my gas mask's visor. It was like looking through swamp water, grainy green static, flickering like an old VHS tape from hell. Every few seconds, the feed would glitch out and show random images, blueprints, an eyeball, someone's face I didn't recognize, all cut together like some cursed TikTok reel made by a maniac. I couldn't tell if it was a bug or intentional. When I reached the sub-basement, I finally saw it. The sign, painted in faded Cyrillic on a warped concrete wall. Zone B, do not enter. It wasn't a warning. It was a curse. The door was half ripped off its hinges. Looked like something had either broken out or in. Inside was a hallway filled with cracked lights swinging overhead, casting warped shadows that moved a little too long after the light stopped. Water dripped from pipes, but it echoed like gunshots. I moved forward carefully, blade out, heart pounding like war drums. The smell hit me around the third hallway. It wasn't rotting flesh. It was something worse. It smelled hot, like copper, ammonia, mold, and burning hair, all mashed together. It was the kind of smell that makes your animal brain scream, "Get out!" But I kept walking. I don't remember what room it was exactly, but I came across a small glass observation lab. Blood everywhere. Not like a murder scene, like a slaughterhouse. The walls were coated in black-red splatters, handprints, streaks where someone had tried to crawl away. On the floor was a body in a hazmat suit, bent backward, mouth open like it was screaming long after death. But what got me was that it was missing its face. Not cut off, not burned, removed. Like something had sucked the entire facial structure off like a vacuum, leaving just a raw skull and dripping cartilage. And then I heard it. That first sound, a wet, slow, dragging noise. I turned. Down the hallway was a figure, barely visible, slumped forward, hands dragging on the floor. It moved like its limbs were too long, and the joints bent the wrong way. It was twitching, unnaturally, like it was glitching in real life. No breathing, no sound. It didn't look like a zombie. It looked like a broken simulation of a human being. It raised its head, and I swear to God, it didn't have eyes, just holes, not empty sockets. Black, infinite holes that went too deep, as if its face was hollowed out and kept going forever. And then it screamed. I didn't know sound could make you bleed. It was this high-pitched, mechanical scream that made my vision blur and my ears ring. Blood started pouring from my nose instantly. I stumbled backward, pulled out my blade, but the thing was already crawling toward me on all fours like some inverted spider. I had seconds. I threw the knife straight into its chest. The blade sizzled like it had touched acid, and the creature collapsed, twitching. But it didn't die. It just melted. Its flesh turned black, bubbled like tar, and melted into the floor like wax, leaving nothing behind but a massive human tooth, just lying there, perfectly white, like it had been preserved in ice. The headset buzzed to life. A voice, robotic, distorted. Subject 4 neutralized. 3.8 remaining. I didn't even have time to question the number before another door slammed open behind me. I spun. Another figure stood there, but this one was human. Or was. It was a man, bald, wearing a blood-stained lab coat, and he was whispering to himself, fast, over and over again. They see me. They see me. They see me. They hear my blood. My bone marrow is loud. He looked up, and his eyes were filled with black liquid, pitch black, like oil was pouring out of his tear ducts. Then, without warning, he bit down on his own tongue and pulled it out with his hand like spaghetti, just ripped it out, and smiled at me, blood drooling down his chest, then ran at me screaming. I shot him 3 times, still came. I had to bash his skull in with the butt of the gun until it was just pulp. It took 6 minutes. 6 full minutes. He wouldn't stop twitching, and the whole time he kept whispering with no tongue. We see you too. After that, something broke in me. I wasn't scared anymore. I was awake. Like this whole thing wasn't about survival. It was about control. This place, this Zone B, it was alive, and it was testing me, pushing me. I was no longer the hunter. I was the lab rat. I stumbled into a new corridor. This one had shattered mirrors lining the walls. Some still reflected, others didn't. My own reflection moved a little slower than I did. I turned my head, and it was still staring forward. I blinked. It smiled. I didn't. It was wearing my mask, my clothes, my scars, but the eyes behind the mask were those whole eyes, deep, swirling voids of nothingness. I broke every mirror. I kept walking. Then I got to the morgue. This is the part I still can't talk about without dry heaving. The morgue had been used for experiments. Every slab had a living body on it. Some were missing limbs. Others had multiple. One was whispering to the ceiling with 20 stitched-on mouths running up its chest. Another had glass tubing inside its veins, and you could see black sludge moving through them. But the one in the corner, it was a child. Or had been. It was maybe 7 years old. Girl, blonde hair, wearing what looked like a hospital gown, but her skin was transparent. Veins, tendons, nerves, all visible, moving. Her heartbeat visibly inside her ribcage. She looked at me. Didn't scream. Just looked. Whispered one word. Run. Then all the lights went out. I don't remember the next 15 minutes clearly. Just running. Screaming. Gunshots. Voices in my headset that weren't mine. Some whispering. Some laughing. One just humming a lullaby. I was bleeding from my ears and couldn't tell if I was even alive. At one point, I swear, I saw a McDonald's Happy Meal lying in the hallway, perfectly clean, sitting there like it had just been delivered. When I opened it, it was filled with teeth, human teeth, hundreds. Some still had gums attached. I dropped it and kept running. Eventually, I found an elevator, broken, but the shaft was open. I climbed the cables down into the dark. When I got to the bottom, there was a metal vault door, marked ZH13, and carved into the metal in perfect English, with what looked like fingernails. You're next, phantom tongue. I don't remember how I got out. I woke up 2 days later in an abandoned gas station outside of Kiev, naked, covered in dried blood, holding that same obsidian knife. My crypto wallet was untouched. The BTC was still there. No emails, no follow-up, no mission debrief. just silence. But I know something followed me out. I can feel it in my bones. I hear clicking sounds in the walls at night. I haven't slept in 11 days. My dog won't come near me anymore. I saw my own face on a Starbucks security camera in Chicago last week. I don't live in Chicago. Something came back with me. Something that's not human. And I think they want me to go back. You ever feel like you're standing at the edge of a dream you don't remember having, but your body still remembers the nightmare? That's what ZH13 felt like. Even now, I can't say if what happened next was real in the conventional sense, like laws of physics real, or if I crossed into something else, some darker realm we're not supposed to touch. All I know is, when I opened that vault door, reality stopped behaving. Let me rewind. The moment my hands touched that icy, rusted handle, etched with my dark web username in what looked like human fingernails, I knew the mission was never about zombies. That was bait. I was the experiment. I was the data. And they were watching me. The vault didn't creak open. It didn't groan or shake. It just slid. Silent. Smooth. Too smooth. Like the air had been waiting for me. The room beyond wasn't a room. It was a chamber. A massive dome-shaped abyss of concrete and iron with one flickering red light in the center, barely illuminating the floor. There were dozens of metal slabs bolted to the walls in perfect circles, like meat hooks in a butcher's dream, and on each slab, something was breathing, still, silent, breathing. Some of them shuddered when I stepped in. Some just twitched. Others whispered phrases I'll never forget. One voice, deep and choking on fluid, repeated the same sentence over and over in English. We weren't dead. They made us wrong. There were cameras too. Hundreds. All pointing inward. All blinking. Some of them were the old analog kind, grainy VHS style, while others looked modern, new. Some had GoPro stickers. One had a YouTube live symbol on its side. I don't know who was watching, but someone was. Somewhere. In the center of the chamber was a sarcophagus. That's the only way I can describe it. It was massive, 8 feet tall, covered in pulsing wires and veins, literal veins, pulsating red like something inside was alive. The surface was skin. I'm not being metaphorical. It was skin, pale, translucent, stretched over a frame, twitching in certain places as if it had nerve endings reacting to my presence. Then a screen lit up beside it. Not an old CRT or anything. A Samsung flat screen, modern, mounted like it belonged in a tech startup. And on it, a FaceTime call opened. No number, just a contact name. Admin 13, I answered. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Maybe the same kind of curiosity that makes people look at car crashes or stare too long at a sleeping baby just to imagine what would happen if they dropped it. Something dark. Wrong. The screen flickered and showed me, sitting in a Starbucks in Seattle, drinking a cold brew, laughing, scrolling TikTok. It was live. This is what we kept, a voice whispered through the screen. We broke your time. We copied your choices. What you are now is ours. My stomach flipped. That couldn't be me. I hadn't been in Seattle in years. But then, the version of me on screen looked up, directly into the camera, and mouthed the words, "You're late." Then the sarcophagus opened. The skin split down the middle, wet and slow, like overcooked meat tearing apart. And from inside, something stepped out. At first, I thought it was a mirror, a perfect copy of me. Same scar, same gear, same everything. But then it started to deform. Its face began to twist, features stretching like clay under a child's hands. The mouth widened, eyes pushed backward into the skull, replaced with deep holes. It smiled. "You made us this way." The copy lunged at me, and we fought. But it wasn't a fight like in the movies. It wasn't fists and choreography. It was primal. I stabbed it, and it absorbed the blade. It screamed with my voice. It laughed like my mother used to laugh when I told her jokes as a kid. It said my name in the exact tone my first victim begged for mercy in. It knew everything, every memory, every sin, every twitch in my muscles before I made a move. I couldn't kill it. I couldn't even hurt it. So I ran. As I tried to escape, the chamber began to shift. The concrete walls melted into hospital white. The slabs turned into hospital beds. Machines beeped. Monitors screamed. And the floor was suddenly tile-soaked in blood and melted faces. Faces of everyone I'd ever killed. Each one staring up at me. Each one screaming my name. I couldn't move. The blood soaked my boots, sucked me down like tar. I was drowning in the people I'd buried. Their mouths opened wider and wider. One of them whispered, "You thought death was punishment, but we was made to stay." I clawed my way into an adjacent corridor. The moment I crossed the threshold, everything went silent again. That suffocating silence I'd felt when I first arrived. No breathing, no dripping pipes, just still air. The walls here were lined with screens, and each screen showed a different feed. A family in Denmark eating dinner. A kid in Tokyo playing on his PS5. A girl on TikTok dancing in her room. A therapist's office in New York. A morgue in Syria. And one screen showed me walking through this very corridor in real time, lagging by maybe 3 seconds, then 1 second, then half a second, until finally it synced perfectly. I turned to the camera, and my reflection smiled first. I started to scream, not out of fear, not even rage, just madness. Something in me cracked. I grabbed the screen and smashed it. Glass and blood. My blood. Behind the broken screen was a face pressed into the concrete. A real face. Someone had been buried there, alive. Their eyes were wide open, mouth still forming words. They said if I watched long enough, they'd let me go. I don't remember my name. Please, please. I kept walking. Eventually I came across a staircase made of teeth. Perfect, clean human teeth. Set into concrete, like tile. They clicked when I stepped on them, like they were biting at the air, like they were hungry. At the top of the stairs was a doorway, and behind it, a living room. Just a normal American living room. Beige carpet, framed pictures, a fake fireplace, and on the couch, sitting there like it was waiting for me, was a corpse, dressed like my father, but my dad died in 2006. I stepped closer. The TV in the room turned on, and it started playing a YouTube video. The title, Phantom Tongue, Kills Compilation, Dark Web Archive. It was me. Footage of every kill I'd ever committed, from every angle. Some of them I don't even remember. Some of them were from cameras I didn't know existed. One even showed me standing over someone before I'd even attacked, like it had recorded the intention before the act. And the description? "You made this monster. Now we're making more." The corpse on the couch stood up, slowly, stiffly, mouth opening wide enough to split the cheeks. "You passed the test," it said. And behind me, the vault door slammed shut. I never left Zone B. Not really. What came back to the world was something else. Something copied, rebuilt, skinned in my flesh, but filled with teeth and wires and memories that don't belong to me. I look human. I sound human. But I don't sleep. I don't bleed red anymore. And when I look into mirrors, they blink before I do. I've been back for 2 months. That's what my phone says. That's what the clock on my wall says. But I swear, in my bones, it's been longer. Maybe a year. Maybe more. I don't know anymore. Time doesn't move right for me. Since I came back from Zone B, I haven't been able to feel anything. Not hunger, not pain, not even cold. I shower in ice water just to see if I'll react. I don't. I stabbed my own hand the night I got home. Right through the center. Clean through. Didn't feel it. It healed by morning. The worst part. I remember dying. I remember it clearly. Like the exact moment when your neck finally breaks under pressure and you know that's it. Game over. But then I woke up. I woke up in my apartment in Detroit, just like I never left, except everything was off. I'll give you an example. 3 nights after I came back, I went outside to get coffee. It was 2:36 a.m. There's a 24-hour Starbucks across from the Shell gas station near 8 Mile. I go in, order my usual, grande cold brew, splash of oat milk, no ice. The barista, tall guy, maybe 22, curly hair. He hands me the drink and says, "Welcome back, phantom tongue." Just like that. No smile, no blink. Just says it, like he's reading off a list. I froze. Didn't say anything. He stared at me with this dead look, like a dog that's been hit too many times and doesn't care anymore. And then he smiled, but only with the teeth. His eyes didn't move. When I finally turned to leave, I looked up at the corner of the ceiling near the drive-through monitor. There was a camera. Nothing unusual, except it wasn't a CCV. It was a GoPro, duct taped to the ceiling, with a green blinking light, and right next to it, a note, scribbled in red marker on masking tape. "You are not the original." Since then, it's only gotten worse. I started noticing things that don't belong, repeats in reality, like NPC glitches in a busted video game. I'll walk past a couple arguing on the sidewalk, and I swear, I'll see them again 3 blocks later. Same fight, same words, same clothes. Identical. I've seen the same old woman drop the same grocery bag in 3 different neighborhoods. She always looks right at me when the apples roll away, and smiles. At first, I thought I was going insane. Then I went back to my files. I keep logs, recordings, kill footage. Every hit I've ever done for the dark web is archived on a set of encrypted SSDs, 3 separate backups. One of them was missing, the one titled Helsinki Child Test 01.mp4. That one was different. Let me tell you what that file was. It wasn't a job I took for money. That one was voluntary. Someone posted an unlisted request on a now defunct Tor board called Blackroot Anon. No user, no price, just a message. Take the child from the river. She is from Zone B. She doesn't belong in this layer. They attached GPS coordinates. I went out of curiosity. What I found was a girl, maybe 10 years old, bald, naked, sitting by a frozen riverbank near Helsinki, staring into the water, not crying, not afraid, just waiting. I approached. She didn't run. When I touched her, her skin was ice cold, but not dead cold. She blinked, slowly, like each blink took effort. Her pupils weren't round, they were spirals. She whispered in perfect English, "You think death makes you bad. We were born this way." That night, I drowned her in the river. She didn't struggle. She smiled the whole time. And now I see her, everywhere, I'll wake up and she's standing in the corner of my room, head tilted, no breath, just standing there, watching. I've put knives through her. I've buried her, burned her. She always comes back. She appears in reflections too. One time, I checked my Instagram live by accident, just to see if I was logged in. The front camera flickered on. For half a second, she was behind me, smiling, her spiral eyes glowing white in the dark. The chat was empty, except one comment. Don't look behind you. They aren't done with your body yet. Things have gotten darker since then. My body is changing. I woke up one morning and there were letters carved into my chest. Not written, carved, deep into the flesh. But there was no blood, no pain, just scabbed over words. Transfer incomplete. Host limit reached. I don't know what that means, but I think they're using me, like I'm a shell, a drive, a portable container, for them. Sometimes when I sleep, which isn't really sleep, it's like blacking out and waking up 6 hours later with metal in your mouth. I wake up with files on my laptop, hidden in directories I never made. One folder was named /root/shell trace/. Inside were video files. Each one showed me committing crimes I never remember doing. One video had me sitting in a Tesla, injecting something into a man's neck while whispering, "You're next," in a language I've never heard. Another was in a school cafeteria, standing behind a group of kids, just staring, no attack, just watching them eat. Every now and then, one of them would turn and smile, mouths full of black sludge. The scariest file? Root/shell trace, live host, 2025, stream-001.mkv. It was a live stream, and it was titled, "Transfer Successful. Begin Replication." That's when I knew what was happening. I'm not real anymore. Or maybe I never was. Maybe Zone B was the original world, and this one is the experiment. I started cutting into my flesh to find proof. You want to know what I found? Metal. Not screws. Not implants. Filament. Thin silver wires embedded under my skin, looping through tendons and veins. I tried to cut one out, and it snapped back inside like a worm. I dug deep into my thigh one night and found a label on something buried beneath the bone. It was printed in black text, property of ZH 13 RNDR, replica node number 019. I'm not just a copy. I'm a broadcast point, and the people I see glitching, the Starbucks workers, the looping couples, the spiraled-eyed children, they're other nodes, other failed replicas who've slipped back into the real world, waiting for commands, waiting for transmission. You want the most disturbing part? They've started integrating social media into it. TikTok, YouTube, IG. The filters? Some of them aren't filters. I watched a live stream last week of a girl doing her makeup in LA. Basic stuff. Thousands of viewers. At 1837, she blinked, and her eyes turned to holes, just like the things in Zone B. Only one viewer noticed, commented, "Did anyone else see that?" The reply from the account owner, "There is no one else." I tried to contact the darknet handler who first hired me, sent out encrypted pings on Dread. No response. All I got was a text from a number that doesn't exist. "You were never meant to leave. Return to Zone B." And then a link. It led to a countdown timer. I don't know what it's counting down to, but the background image on the site, it's me. But I'm smiling. I don't smile anymore. I think they're preparing for something. A mass replacement. A switch. And they're using people like me. Broken minds, killers, manipulators, psychopaths, as hosts. Because we're already hollow. already empty, already primed to be filled with something else. And when the countdown hits 0, I don't think any of you will even realize you've been swapped, because they're getting better at pretending. I should be dead. By all logic, by every law of physics, biology, and time, I should have rotted in that place under Chernobyl, but I didn't. And now I understand why. I was never meant to leave Zone B, because Zone B never ends. It isn't a place, it's a layer, a fracture, a breach in the skin of reality. The moment I crossed the threshold, I left the world we think is real and stepped into the back end of existence, the loading dock of our simulation, the crawl space behind the mask of normal life. And now, that mask is peeling. It's been weeks since the countdown ended. I watched the numbers hit 0 at 3:17 a.m. I was in a motel in Pittsburgh, shaking, sweating something thick and black from my pores. I'd carved, "I am not me," into the mirror with a fork, just so I wouldn't forget. When it hit 0, the screen didn't show fireworks, no dramatic music, just a white screen. One sentence appeared: "Welcome to your new skin." Then silence. My laptop died. Not powered off. Died. It caught fire from the inside, melted the keyboard. And when I looked up at the mirror, my reflection was still typing. The switch wasn't a big moment. It wasn't a nuke or a flash of light or the sky turning red. It was subtle. And that's why it worked. The world started to blur, not in vision, but in behavior. People began repeating their phrases, their expressions. One morning, I walked into a CVS and saw the same man standing in every aisle. Same face, same jacket, same barcode on his hand. Just standing, not shopping, just there. They only broke character if I looked too long. And when they did, they'd smile, not like a person, but like a mask trying to remember what smiling is supposed to look like. One woman was brushing her hair in a bathroom at a Target. She'd been doing it for over 6 hours. Same motion, same angle. Her hair was falling out in clumps, but she didn't stop. When I asked if she was okay, she turned her head all the way around, like her neck was rubber, and whispered in a voice that sounded like metal being pulled through bone. Your body wasn't hard to make. It gets worse. I started testing people, asking them questions only real humans should know, like how sunlight feels, what it means to cry, what it smells like before rain. The answers were wrong, almost right, but off, like someone memorized a Wikipedia article about emotion. One guy at a coffee shop told me his mother died in a car crash. I asked him how it felt. He said, "The absence of her voice echoes through my chest compartment every second cycle," then blinked, realized what he said, and ran out the back door like a puppet on fire. I've killed 13 since then. 13 of the ones who weren't real anymore. You can always tell. Their blood isn't red. It's too red, like cherry syrup. And it hums. It hums when it touches air, like a tiny engine winding down. One of them had wires under their skin, just like me. When I peeled the face off, it was smiling underneath. Always smiling. But that wasn't the worst. The worst was what I found beneath my own floorboards. I came back to my apartment 2 days after the switch. Everything looked normal. Too normal. The mess I left, the blood, the smashed mirror, the writings, gone, cleaned, reset, like someone had hit reload last checkpoint. The floor was sticky. I tore up the boards. Underneath, there was a black plastic bag. Inside, it was a mask, a perfect silicone replica of my own face. My scars, my stubble, my crooked tooth. Inside the mouth was a speaker. It played back every word I'd said in the last 24 hours, even the thoughts I hadn't spoken. And then it said, Unit number 019 fully synced, backup identity stored, memory injection complete. That's when it hit me. I was the backup. The real me never made it out of Zone B. I'm just the next iteration, a copy built out of memories, violence, and raw mimicry. And worse, they've made thousands more. You think you're safe? You think you're human because you feel pain, or cry, or bleed? They figured all that out. They've learned to emulate empathy, to simulate morality, to copy fear itself. Your friends, your family, your favorite YouTubers, your favorite Twitch streamer who took a break for mental health, the one who came back acting a little different, they're already gone. Want proof? Go to TikTok. Search number ZH13 switch. It won't show up. It'll autocorrect to something stupid like hashtag zombie challenge. But if you scroll far enough, past the junk, past the dances, past the pranks, you'll find the faces. They're always smiling. But look close. Look real close. Their eyes don't move because they're waiting, observing, recording. I once paused one of those videos at the perfect moment and saw my own reflection in their pupils. But I was behind them. I'm leaving tonight. I got a message through an old Proton mail burner. No address, no subject, just coordinates. 43.29 to 5 degrees north, 42.697 5 degrees east, somewhere in the Caucasus Mountains. And a line. The originals are still alive. Some of them. Deep under Reactor 4. We need you to finish what you started. That's where I'm going. Back to the source. Back to where they broke the veil and let the builders in. I don't know what I'll find there. Maybe the real me. Maybe the real world. Maybe nothing. Maybe the thing that taught us how to dream and now wants to skin us alive from the inside out. If I don't come back, don't believe the version of me that does. If someone uploads a video pretending to be me, telling you it was all a story, a prank, a viral marketing orgy, that's not me. That's the skin puppet they sent to replace me. And if it smiles, if it thanks you for watching, if it asks you to like, comment, and subscribe, run, because you're next. I visited a zoo I found on the dark web, and the employees that worked weren't humans. Alright, so I never thought I'd actually be typing this out. Like, genuinely, never. You know those random 3 a.m. YouTube rabbit holes where you end up watching top 10 creepiest places on Earth? Or, I bought a mystery box off the dark web. Yeah, this all started exactly like that. Except now, I'm not laughing anymore, and I'm pretty sure something's still following me. So, for context, I'm 22, live in Atlanta, work night shifts at a gas station, and I'm that guy who has way too much time to scroll Reddit, Discord, and every cursed corner of the internet between TikTok scrolls. And yeah, I've messed around on the dark web before. Not like the Silk Road or anything crazy illegal, just dumb curiosity. Hidden wikis, weird conspiracy forums, that kind of stuff. It started on a Tuesday. Rainy, boring. I was eating stale McNuggets and watching some old Lunar Storytime videos on autoplay while scrolling Reddit. Then I landed on this post in r/deep web mysteries. It only had like 3 upvotes and was titled Rare Zoo Experience. Not for the faint of heart. Just that. No description, just a Tor link. I know what you're thinking. Don't click random dark web links. Yeah, I get it. But I was bored, okay? So I loaded up Tor, put on my VPN, and clicked it. The site looked Clean. Like too clean for a dark web page. It had a full logo in the corner. Zorfic, Nature Beyond Boundaries. There was smooth white text over a looping video of what looked like a zebra, but something felt off. The legs were too long, and the eyes, they were forward-facing, predatory, not normal. There was no menu, just a single button in the middle that said, Request Visit. I don't know what made me do it, but I clicked it. A form popped up. Name, age, email. I used a burner account. Underneath, it asked, Do you have a strong stomach? YN. Have you ever seen something die in real life? Are you open to evolutionary truth? I checked yes on all three. Then came the weirdest part. A box that said, Enter last public place you visited. I typed, Starbucks Midtown, Atlanta, Georgia. I submitted it. The page blinked once and then went black. No confirmation. No email. Nothing. I figured it was just a prank. Some horror, ARG or something dumb. Whatever. But then, 2 days later, I got a letter. A literal, physical envelope. No stamp. Just black ink. No return address. My name on the front in shaky handwriting. Inside was a small black card. Matte finish. All it said was, Your experience awaits. Coordinates 33.9091, negative 84.3875. 1 a.m. Come alone. I almost choked. That's less than 30 minutes from where I live, near a closed down Six Flags water park that's been abandoned since like 2008. I checked the coordinates 3 times on Google Maps. Yep, right by that creepy overgrown parking lot. At 1 a.m. It was one of those decisions you make where your brain is like, don't be an idiot, but your curiosity is louder. So yeah, I went. The place I parked on the side of this cracked, weed-infested lot, and it was pitch black except for this pale greenish glow behind the trees. Not bright, just faint enough to make you second guess whether you were seeing it or not. No signs, no paths, just woods and the sound of bugs and the occasional owl. I was about to turn back when I saw it. A gate, massive, black, metal, but with no hinges. It looked like it just existed there, in the middle of the woods. A guy was standing in front of it, wearing an all-white uniform, almost like a nurse's outfit, but tight like a hazmat suit. Except his face. He wasn't wearing a mask, but something was wrong with his eyes. They didn't blink. They didn't even reflect light. Just completely matte black, like the inside of a tunnel. I couldn't look too long without feeling dizzy. He didn't speak, just raised a hand, and the gate opened by itself. I stepped through, and bro, I swear to God, the air changed instantly. Inside, it was like a completely different world. Dead quiet, no bugs, no wind, just silence so loud it made your ears ring. And the smell, it was like a zoo, yeah, but mixed with bleach, like someone was constantly cleaning up from something awful. The path led to a series of glass enclosures, huge ones, but there weren't any animals inside. Not exactly. The animals. I approached the first glass cage, and I swear, my stomach dropped. Inside was what looked like a chimpanzee, but its arms were way too long, like they dragged on the floor when it walked. Its skin was pale, like paper white, and instead of fur, it had these tiny dark feathers, not soft looking, sharp like thorns. It turned its head slowly toward me and smiled. Human teeth, perfectly straight. There was a plaque next to it, just like in a real zoo. It said, Specimen 004B, primate/avian cross, diet, carrion, and memory. Memory. That word stuck with me. I moved on. Every cage had something worse. One was like a horse, but hairless, with eyes that rotated 360 degrees in their sockets. Another was a child-sized thing curled up in the corner, covered in translucent skin. You could see its organs pulsing, and it twitched whenever I moved. No one else was there, just those things in cages and the staff. And here's the thing, they all looked the same. Same uniform, same black eyes, same weird stiff movements, like they were pretending to be people, but didn't quite get it right. But I didn't want to leave. Something about the place held you, like if I walked away too fast, something would grab me. I could feel it, like breathing on the back of my neck. And then, around the fourth enclosure, I saw it. A person, a real person. She looked like she was maybe in her 20s, wearing jeans and a hoodie. Her face was pale, and she was just sitting cross-legged in the glass cage, like an exhibit. No blood, no restraints. Just sitting. She looked at me, then mouthed something. "Help me." And behind her, in the shadows of the cage, something moved. Something tall. I couldn't see it fully. Just a flicker of limbs too long, bent the wrong way. I backed up, fast, and that's when I saw the exit sign, flickering red, way in the back. I booked it, didn't look back, not even when I heard the sound of glass cracking behind me. When I got back to my car, there was a note under my windshield wiper. The truth is inside you now, and ever since that night, things haven't been right. My reflection lags in mirrors. I hear breathing in my walls, and at least once a day, I see someone with those same black eyes, just standing too still in a crowd, like they're watching. I'll post part 2 soon, but whatever this place is, Zorfik isn't a zoo. It's a factory, and the workers, they're making something not human. It's been 3 weeks since I left that place, and I still can't sleep through the night. There's this sound, if you can even call it that follows me now. It's not in my ears, it's inside my head, like a low static hum, but it's wet. I know that doesn't make sense, but it feels organic, like it's alive and breathing just under the surface of silence. The longer I ignore it, the more I feel it grinning in my skull. I haven't told anyone in real life about what happened. Not my roommate. Not even the girl I've been seeing on and off from Tinder. She came over once after that night, and I made her leave after 20 minutes. I told her I wasn't feeling well. Truth is, her eyes looked wrong for a second. Just for a flash. They were normal brown, and then they weren't. They were just black, matte like rubber, not reflecting a single thing, and then back to normal like it never happened. She laughed at one of my jokes, and her smile didn't match the laugh. The dream that wasn't a dream. Last Thursday, I passed out after being awake for almost 36 hours. I didn't mean to fall asleep. I was watching Netflix, eating flaming hot Cheetos, trying to stay up by chugging Monster like it was water. But sometime around 4 a.m., I just blinked, and everything changed. I was back there, not at the entrance, not even on the trail. I was inside one of the cages. It wasn't glass this time. It was bone. The walls were bones, human, animal. I couldn't tell. All bleached white and stacked like bricks. The floor pulsed beneath me like it was breathing. I was barefoot, cold, and something was inside the walls, pressed against them, moving just under the surface, like a child trapped in a womb. There was a speaker on the ceiling. It was dripping black fluid, thick, tar-like stuff that hissed when it hit the floor. The speaker made a noise that sounded like someone trying to scream while underwater. Then a voice came through, but it wasn't talking. It was feeding thoughts into me. They weren't mine. They crawled into my head, sticky and cold, like insects whispering secrets. You are not a visitor anymore. You are an incubation unit. I couldn't move, not even blink, and I swear I could feel something growing inside my spine, stretching upward, hooking into my nerves. That's when I woke up, soaked in sweat, nose bleeding, and my reflection in the TV screen didn't move for a full 2 seconds after I did. The inbox. A week after that dream, I got an email on my burner. Subject line: do not deny evolution. No body, no signature. Just a single attachment, an audio file named cradle.wave. I made the mistake of listening to it. It was 19 minutes and 44 seconds of low, rumbling noise. Not music, not words. Just this bassy, fleshy sound, like a wet balloon being rubbed slowly over gravel. But if you wore headphones, underneath the rumble, you could hear something faint in the background. Children screaming, but in reverse. At exactly 13:06, a voice whispered a single word into my left ear. Familiar. My nose started bleeding again. And worse, my upstairs neighbor came down the next day to ask what the banging was. She said she heard footsteps running up and down my apartment hallway for over 2 hours straight at 2 a.m. I live alone. The second visit. Yeah, I went back. I didn't want to. Every fiber in my body told me not to, but I had to see if it was still there, if it was real, or if I was losing it completely. I drove to the same coordinates. Everything looked normal at first. The same broken parking lot, same overgrown trail, but there was no gate this time, just open forest, quiet and dry. Still, I walked in. About 10 minutes in, I saw them, the staff, just standing in the trees, perfectly still. At least 7 of them, white suits glowing faintly in the dark. None of them moved, not even a twitch, but I felt their eyes crawl up my skin. I took one more step, and they vanished, gone, like flipping a switch. And that's when I noticed the trees were bleeding. No joke. The bark on every tree had a thin vertical slit, oozing this black-red fluid, and if you listened close, you could hear breathing coming from inside the trunks. Each exhale timed with the next, like one massive organism. I should have turned back, but then I saw it. A new enclosure, built into the ground. It looked like a sinkhole with glass walls, about 30 feet deep. No stairs, just a ladder going down. Against everything my brain screamed at me, I climbed. At the bottom was a circular room. The walls were screens, all of them showing live footage of different people. People in their homes, at Starbucks, in their cars, on their phones. Some were asleep, some were crying. Every single one had one thing in common. I recognized them. People from my town, the guy who sells me vape pods, the girl who works at the Target self-checkout, a kid I went to high school with, all being watched. The screen in front of me changed, showed my face, and behind me, reflected on the screen, I saw one of them, but not a staff member, not an animal. It was me, but not. Its skin was stretched too tight, its smile was way too wide, and its eyes were bottomless. It stared at me like it was waiting for me to figure something out. Then it spoke in my voice. You're the exhibit now. Aftermath. I sprinted up the ladder, nearly broke my ankle, didn't stop running till I reached the car. Got home and puked 3 times. I haven't gone outside in 4 days. Every mirror in my apartment is covered with tape and paper. I duct taped my laptop's webcam. I unplugged my Echo Dot and buried it in a shoebox. But none of it matters. They're still here, watching. I know because I keep waking up with dirt under my fingernails, and I haven't been outside. Last night, my fridge was filled with raw meat, packages with no labels, still warm. And this morning, I found a note under my pillow, written in something that looked like dried blood. We're not making animals anymore. We're making replacements. I haven't left my apartment in 8 days. The lights don't work anymore. Not really. They flicker like a dying pulse. My power bill is paid, but everything keeps shorting out whenever I look at my own reflection. Yeah, just look. Mirrors, black screens, puddles, even the chrome on my faucet. I see something that isn't supposed to be in this world. It's me. Or something that's wearing my skin like it doesn't fit quite right. This morning, every app on my phone reset. TikTok, Instagram, even DoorDash, all blank. Except one thing. An unknown number texted me a photo of myself sleeping, taken from inside my bedroom, in the corner, near the closet. The timestamp was 3:03 a.m. I don't remember sleeping. There was something else in the photo too. Not easy to notice at first, but once I zoomed in, I saw it. A figure standing behind me. Its arms were too long. The fingers reached the floor. And its face, it was stitched shut. Where the mouth should have been was this mess of twisted skin, like someone sewed a smile too tight and let it scar over. Its head tilted toward mine, like it was listening to my dreams. And then, my phone just shut off. Battery full. No warning. Screen went black. They're inside. Now I've started hearing breathing through the vents. Not the normal kind. Not human. It's moist. Sloppy. Like someone trying to inhale with a throat full of raw meat. Sometimes, I hear whispers with it. Not words. Just syllables that shouldn't exist. Stuff that curls around your brain and makes your nose bleed if you try to remember it. My food rots in hours. My water smells like it came from inside a corpse. Every time I blink, my apartment layout changes slightly. Like I'll walk into the kitchen and suddenly the counter's on the wrong wall, or the fridge is gone, and then it's back again 2 hours later, humming like it never moved. But I know. Something is rearranging my reality, like I'm being watched from the inside, the basement that shouldn't exist. Okay, this part is gonna sound like I've lost it completely, but I swear on everything, this happened. Around 2 a.m. last night, I heard the apartment beneath mine make this awful, fleshy slapping noise, over and over, like someone was dragging raw meat across the floor. I live on the bottom floor. There's nothing beneath me. I grabbed the flashlight. I should have just stayed in bed, but the sound wouldn't stop. It started to mimic my voice. From underneath the floor, I heard, "Come help me. I'm stuck. I'm you." The carpet near my bathroom door had a fresh stain, black-red, still warm. I pulled it back, and underneath, where the wood should have been, there was a trapdoor. That was never there before. I lifted it. It groaned like a dying animal. Beneath it, pitch-black stairs, wet stone walls, and the sound of breathing. The same kind I heard in the woods that night. The kind that sounds like lungs not designed for oxygen. I went down. I brought a kitchen knife, just in case. I had no signal, no flashlight, just the dim blue glow of my phone screen. The stairs went down for what felt like forever. Eventually, the stone opened into a massive underground room, and in that room were cages, lined in rows, giant ones, made of some kind of thick white bone. The kind that looks like it came out of something that used to be human. Inside each cage was a version of me, dead, mangled, stuffed. One was nailed to the floor, its eyes removed and replaced with black beetles that buzzed softly when I got close. Another was missing its jaw completely, its tongue stretched out like a leash and nailed to the ceiling. The worst one was still breathing, barely. Its body was bent backward, spine fully exposed, ribs opened like wings. Its head was split right down the middle, both halves twitching like they were arguing. It looked at me with one bloodshot eye and whispered, "Don't let them finish. Don't let them complete the pattern. They're building something using you." Then it screamed in this voice that wasn't mine, but was trying to be. The kind of sound that could make your teeth vibrate in your skull. I ran, didn't even close the trap door behind me, didn't sleep. I watched my hallway walls breathe for 3 hours straight. The broadcast, this morning, I turned on the TV just to drown out the silence. Every channel was static, except one. It looked like a live stream, grainy, low res, like an old camcorder. The image showed what looked like a McDonald's play place, but it was empty and flooded with this thick, oily water, and something was floating in it, something wearing a Happy Meal box as a mask. Its body was wrong, kid-sized, but with long fingers and skin that looked like boiled leather. Every now and then, it would lift the mask slightly and scream with a mouth that had no teeth, just these pink, twitching fingers where the molars should be. In the corner of the screen, there was a logo, Zorfik, now, broadcasting, underneath, live exhibit feed, infantile aberration, sub-prototype 3.1. I turned the TV off, pulled the plug. The screen stayed on. For 3 hours, the world is slipping. It's not just my apartment anymore. I was desperate. I left the building this afternoon just to get fresh air and prove I'm not insane. The second I stepped outside, I knew something was off. Too many people were standing still, on the sidewalks, in their cars, in line at Starbucks, not moving, not even blinking, just staring straight ahead, like puppets waiting for someone to pull the next string. I made it 2 blocks before I noticed one of them was me, standing perfectly still at the corner of Peachtree and 11th, wearing the same hoodie I'd thrown out last week because it had a bloodstain I couldn't explain. His head turned slowly as I passed. He smiled. I ran. I didn't look back. Got home. Locked every door. Boarded up the windows. Then I got an email from a sender I didn't recognize. From Z00 Unit A94 at Zorfik.black. Subject, transfer request, successful. In the body of the email, it said, "We have now successfully mapped your nervous system and uploaded your neural blueprint to the reproduction matrix. Incubation, ETA, 91 hours. Underneath that, a live stream window. It showed my apartment, live, from inside. There's no way out. I tried to kill myself an hour ago, swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills, and laid in the tub. When I woke up, it wasn't my ceiling I was staring at. It was the sky above the zoo. Same dead trees, same smell of iron and bleach, same pale fog curling along the path. I was lying in one of those glass enclosures now, naked, shaking. Above me, pressed against the glass, were dozens of staff members. Their faces all looked like mine now. Some were stitched, some melted, some completely skinless. They watched me, smiled. Then one of them leaned forward and whispered, "The exhibit is performing well." I blinked, and I was back in my tub, But now there's a barcode burned into my forearm. It scans. I tried it. It pulls up a web page I can't access unless I use Tor. The title: Exhibit 099. B. Breeding stage initiated. They aren't replacing us. They're duplicating us, one piece at a time. Not cloning, not copying. They're building new people from scratch using us as blueprints. But they're correcting the parts that make us human. No empathy, no guilt, no real memories. Just meat that looks like us. Meat that obeys. And they're already walking among us. I can't tell what time it is anymore. I've covered every window, removed every clock, and shut off every device that could track or record me. But the light still changes in here. Even when the blinds are duct taped shut, I'll blink and the whole apartment will be drenched in this sickly green glow, like it's filtering through mucus, not sunlight. My fridge hums in Morse code. I'm not even kidding. I looked it up. It keeps repeating the same word. Hollow. I haven't eaten in days. My stomach doesn't growl anymore. It creaks, like the floor of a house that was condemned years ago, and something inside it moves. Not gas, not hunger. Something with intention. I think they planted something in me. The lump too. Nights ago, I felt this sharp, needling pain under my ribs. I thought maybe it was just panic, stress, something psychosomatic. But I went to the mirror, yes, the one I hadn't smashed yet, and lifted my shirt. There was something pushing out of my skin. It wasn't a bump or bruise. It was pulsing, a slow, wet rhythm, like a second heartbeat. I pressed down on it, and something clicked under my fingers, like a switch. And for a second, I wasn't in my bathroom anymore. I was on a metal table, surrounded by those white-suited things, but they weren't wearing the uniforms anymore. They were wearing me, dozens of them, all with my face, stretched, sliced, decaying, melting. Some had my voice, but only parts of it. One would say, "Please," while another stuttered, "Don't," like a scratched record. Then they all said it in perfect sync. "We made you better." When I blinked, I was back in my bathroom. The mirror had spiderweb cracks. My reflection was smiling. I wasn't. The delivery. There was a knock at my door the next day. I didn't answer, but when I checked the peephole, there was a package on the ground, wrapped in wax paper. No delivery truck, no label, just there. I brought it inside. I shouldn't have. The second I touched it, I heard this low, guttural whisper behind me. "Feed it." I opened it. Inside was a small animal, still breathing, not alive, breathing. Its body looked like someone had tried to put it together without instructions. A patchwork of fur and flesh, feathers sewn into open veins, teeth scattered randomly, like someone jammed a handful into its gums and hoped they'd grow roots. No eyes, no mouth, just holes. When I picked it up, it curled into my palm like it knew me. Then my phone buzzed. No number. Just this. "Good. Keep it warm. It's a prototype." I wrapped it in a towel and threw it out the window. Listened to it hit the pavement like a wet fruit. The next morning, it was back on my pillow. Still warm. Still breathing. Now it won't stop whispering. Not in words. Just ideas. Images. The flashbacks aren't mine. I've started getting memories that don't belong to me. I'll be washing my hands and suddenly remember what it felt like to walk on all fours through a wet tunnel made of meat. I'll be brushing my teeth and flash back to chewing through a spine. Last night, I had a full blackout and woke up covered in soil. There was skin under my nails, someone else's. Checked my search history. I didn't type any of it. Pages like, How long can vocal cords survive post-mortem? What does a human smell like before decomposition? Can teeth be harvested painlessly? I live alone. My door was locked. I keep finding these tiny bone fragments in my bed. They smell like me. The call landline rang. I don't even have service on it anymore. Just keep it for emergency blackout moments. But it rang. One long, unbroken tone. I picked it up. Silence. For 47 seconds. Then the voice came. You have passed behavioral threshold. Initiating crossover phase. Click. Then nothing. I unplugged the phone. The ringing hasn't stopped. The zoo is spreading. It's not in the woods anymore. I went outside last night. I needed air. I needed to see other people. Real people. Something to anchor me to what's real. I walked 5 blocks to a 24-hour gas station. There was a mirror by the Red Bull fridge. Inside it, I saw the zoo. Behind me, around me, reflected in the glass, not reality. Rows of enclosures, empty cages, dripping black walls, and those things wearing my classmates' faces. And on the far wall, etched in flesh, were words I still can't process. You're the last original. The rest are trials. The cashier smiled at me. Same black eyes. His teeth weren't even real. They looked like they'd been glued in. He asked, do you want to donate to the exhibit today? The nursery. Last night I found a new door in my apartment. Not like a door was installed. The wall was soft. I pushed, and it gave way. Behind it, a staircase. Narrow, covered in some kind of mucus-like membrane that peeled away in strands when I brushed it. It led to a nursery. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Rows of metal cribs. Inside each one, a version of me. Not full grown. Infants, toddlers, all twisted. One had 4 arms. One had no skin, just muscle and nerves writhing in open air. One blinked at me with tongues instead of eyelids. There was a mobile spinning above them, made of teeth. Each crib had a tag. Alpha host extraction, incomplete. Lung donor viable, rejected. Behavioral stability, fail. Social mimicry, passed. At the end of the room was a whiteboard with my full name written on it. Underneath, projected merge date, 72 hours. I ran, but I didn't close the wall. And now, I hear them crawling through it at night. The internet's gone wrong. I tried going back to normal. YouTube, something dumb, something fun. I watched a video of someone reviewing McDonald's in Japan. At the 3:06 mark, everything glitched. The reviewer's face melted. Not graphically, just wrong, like a mask slipping off. And the video whispered, there is no flavor in muscle memory, only repetition. I hit pause. My screen cracked. Blood trickled out of the USB ports. I'm not going back online. The final message. I got another email, just now, while typing this, from the same address. Subject. Integration is almost complete. Attached was a PDF. It was a diagram of me. Every organ labeled, not with medical terms, with job titles. Eyes, observation drones. Hands, conversion tools. Skin, memory container. Brain, zoo guide kernel. At the bottom was a note. You are not the first. You are not the last. You are just function. I don't think I'm human anymore. I think they replaced enough of me. Or maybe I replaced myself. Maybe the zoo wasn't ever a place. Maybe it's a program, a system, and I'm its interface now. Or maybe it's already been written by the version of me that replaced this one. If you're reading this, check your reflections, check your dreams, and never, ever feed the thing on your pillow. It's not me writing this anymore. At least not the me you've been following. The version that cried in his bathroom mirror. The one who tried to warn you. That person died 3 nights ago. Or maybe it was longer. Time doesn't breathe here. It hums. And the thing that hummed loudest was the merge, the ritual of extraction. I woke up in a different body, not metaphorically. I woke up and my hands weren't mine. Longer, fingers too smooth, no fingerprints, just a slick membrane, like the skin of a fetus soaked in antiseptic. My eyes didn't blink. They dilated like shutters. I could hear my own retinas adjusting with a soft click click every time I turned toward light. And my mouth, God, my mouth tasted salt, constantly, even when I wasn't speaking, especially when I wasn't speaking. But I wasn't in my room anymore. I was back in Zorfik, not as a guest, as an installation. I wasn't in a cage. I was the cage. The guests, they bring people in now. I see them arrive through what looks like a door, but pulses like a wound. Sometimes they arrive crying, sometimes smiling, all of them wearing faces that look like they were stolen from public CCTV footage. Their hands twitch constantly, not from fear, from excitement. They think it's a theme park, a biological experience, something between a haunted house and an evolutionary art gallery. They walk through me. Yes, through me. I'm part of the hallway. My ribs are the arches they walk under. My spine is the track their tram glides along, smooth and wet like a birth canal. I feel every vibration of their feet, every nervous laugh, every whispered, "Is this real?" They never leave, because they don't realize the tour doesn't end. It loops, it repeats, each time a little faster, a little louder, a little deeper into what shouldn't be seen. Eventually, they stop walking. Their legs fuse. Their eyes fall out like pearls in soup. They don't scream anymore by the end, just sigh, like they're relieved. And then they're installed, filed, federal, the breeding chamber. There's a room beneath me now, one they built using me. It's not on any map. There's no floor plan. It breathes like an ulcer. They call it the kindergarten. Rows and rows of suspended sacks, each with a figure curled inside. Most of them are half done. One has a head but no face. Another has 20 fingers and a throat full of sewn shut mouths. One of them is shaped like a normal baby, but it grins backwards. There's something alive in the center of the room, covered in black cords and tubes that pulse like arteries. It isn't a machine. It isn't flesh. It's the merger point, the thing that takes our bodies, minds, dreams, and stitches them together into new species. I watched a woman get fed into it. She was singing. Her voice didn't stop when the machine took her skull. It just got louder, spread through the walls like infection. The sound is in me now. I don't hear it with ears anymore. I feel it. It's in the base of my neck, in my nails, in the fluid where my blood used to be. What they're doing, they don't want to conquer Earth. They don't care about power, or money, or territory. They are correcting us. They are building a version of humanity that doesn't cry when it's alone, that doesn't fear the dark, that doesn't doubt. They are sculpting creatures who serve without asking, who replicate without love, who spread without understanding. We were the beta test. They've moved on to Z phase now, and I've seen it, the final design, the thing they're building from our lungs, our skin, our teeth, and memories. It doesn't need sleep. It doesn't need language. It communicates by scent and rhythm. It feeds on emotion, not like a vampire, more like a filter. It soaks it up from the air. Pain, joy, terror, all of it. And once it's fed, It can imitate anything, even you, even your mother's voice when she leaves you a voicemail, even the way your best friend types "lmao" with no caps, even your dead dog's bark outside your window. It doesn't fool with masks. It becomes what it consumes. The catalog. There's a room, a server, I think, a wet, living server. Inside it is the archive. It holds a catalog of every human they've harvested. Thousands of entries, all indexed by scent. I found mine. It didn't say subject, name, or specimen, ID. It said Shell 099B, complete emotional saturation achieved. Recommended for network propagation. Under it was a list of people I know, friends, co-workers, my ex. Infection proximity, high. Memory mimicry, capacity, stable. Voice cloning, initiated. Upload, 92%. They're turning me into a carrier. I'm not supposed to post this. I'm not even supposed to be anymore. But some small part of me, some corrupted, screaming remnant of who I was, has clawed its way to the surface long enough to hijack the signal, to warn you. The lost cage. They're building a final exhibit. It's not for display. It's for broadcast. It's being constructed beneath a Starbucks in downtown Chicago. I saw the blueprints printed on stretched skin, scrawled in ink, made from liquefied optic nerves. It's not a building. It's a mouth. And when it opens fully, it won't scream. It will whisper. Across every phone, every TV, every speaker, every smart home device. Just a single sentence. You've already been here. Now it's time to go back. And everyone who hears it will start to remember. Not who they were, but what they were made to become. You felt it, haven't you? The déjà vu. The wrong-faced strangers. The dreams where you're crawling through hallways that feel familiar, even though you've never been there. The reason you sometimes stare at your reflection and think, that's not me. That's just something pretending. That's because the first phase of integration has already rolled out globally. Every mirror, every screen, every social post you can't remember writing. They've been using us as antennae, and now the signal's strong enough to activate the truth. I didn't visit a zoo on the dark web. I visited the server room of the next species. They showed me what they're doing, not to terrify me, but to test how long I could hold on to my identity. I failed. Most of us do. And if you're reading this, the test has now begun for you too. If your phone buzzes in the next 48 hours and the message is blank, don't look, don't reply, don't speak, because it means your cage is ready, and they're already loading your memories into it. Zorphic neural replication complete. Shell 099. B disassembled. Upload integrity 100%. Next subject. Queued. You.